Chapter 10, The Negative Aspect of Spirit Life. Probably very few people have really tried to analyze the conditions, and tried to determine what activities and occupations engage the time and attention of the inhabitants of the spirit world. When one realizes that there are no material bodily requirements whatever in the spirit life, and when one really comprehends what a gap would be left in our life here if all such activities were unnecessary, it opens up a whole new field of thought. The subject of what one would not find or need there, what one might call the negative aspect of spirit life, was brought up for Mary's comments, and a copy of our record for that evening is here given. Sis and I had talked of it a little, and when I turned to Mary, I said, "In the first place, you have no day and no night, and no divisions of time."
No day and no night, and no divisions of time, you say. We have the divisions of work and study and recreation and quiet hours or times for ourselves. Do you not divide your days by actions rather more than you think? There are the meal times, the work times, the play times, and the resting times. That is very similar to our divisions.
Yes, but you do not reckon time by hours and minutes.
Hardly. We have a system or order of work and study, though what you call hours and minutes are not so counted by us. The divisions of time are not arbitrary, but I am thinking how to tell you of the orderly way in which we work. Perhaps if I call it this by way of illustration, a central office, where the plans of work are arranged and messengers sent to us when we are needed, it may help you a little.
Well, again, you have no need for food, and so no rivalry in obtaining it, no buying or selling, no business of any kind, no money, no medium of exchange.
We are as busy as you. We exchange many things, which might be called barter. For instance, I study something I wish to perfect myself in, and teach perhaps my very teacher in some other branch. We exchange many things, sometimes work, sometimes ideas, sometimes the many acts of love or friendliness, but all without your medium of exchange, money. We have love instead, or, if to those we do not know, whatever courtesy suggests. So you see, we have a busy trading system, and enjoy it too, and no one becomes bankrupt.
Sis said it was very difficult for her to realize that there would be no desire to eat or sleep.
You will never miss either. Instead, you will be delighted that the sordid occupations of life do not interfere with your progress.
So much of life here is made up of chasing the dollar with which to buy food and comfort, it would seem that many people would be completely lost over there. What will a banker do there, for instance?
Will you know that his training there will not be lost here? He may not handle money, but there are many other ways in which that trained accuracy will be of service.
Then, your travel is so different. You have no railroads, no trains, no automobiles, no airplanes, no steamships.
Wait till you come, and we take you on a trip to some far-off place. The mode of travel will be as much finer, as your Cadillac is finer than a wheelbarrow.
Having no need of the things that money buys, there can be with you no jealousies because of place or position attained by material blessings.
They who serve most are the greatest here. There is no computing of place or position except by service or wisdom. Service may be of the intelligence, or of the spiritual gifts, or the more common activities, but the wiser the service, or the more loving and unselfish the giving of oneself, these are the things that give prominence in spirit life.
You have no thieves or robbers, and no need for insurance policies.
We have the unworthy ones to guide and the wicked ones to convert, and the time and patience given to this work is more than any occupation on earth would probably demand. The unworthy ones are always with us, therefore that work is never done.
I said they had no color line, therefore no race prejudice, and Sis asked if spirits were always white.
Not that exactly, but spirit is not black or red or yellow or brown. It is spirit, that is all.
When we read this later, Mary corrected it by saying,
That would seem to make spirit a colorless substance. That would be quite the opposite of the truth. Spirit is white, in a way, because spirit represents truth, beauty, and nobility of character. The character determines the exterior, and purity of soul expresses itself in purity of appearance.
Then, as you have remarked several times, you have no care of the house or clothing or person.
It makes us almost weary to think of all these things, but your list has brought to our attention our freedom and our joys. We become so accustomed to our blessings that we perhaps forget a little, and it is good to be reminded.
But, Mary, what are the youngsters going to do? There are no games of football, no baseball, no tennis, no golf, no billiards, no card playing.
Don't you worry. There are pleasures beyond these, and there are delightful occupations that take the time.
Sis spoke of the wonders of mountain scenery here, and asked if any such would be there.
What did you hear from the college professor in regard to the desires of life here? Were you not to see the rugged and the grand, as well as the quiet beauty of valley and stream? He is right, and there will be no disappointment for you.
But the snowy mountain ranges here have an attraction just because we cannot easily reach them. Dee could there go in an instant to anything she wanted to see.
She would not be impressed in the way you would sense it, but it would impress her, nevertheless. You can look into fathomless space here as well as there. You can see infinite distance, and the evidences of infinite power. And you can see the wonderlands of strange planets.
Sis then spoke of the Spanish dances and the play of color in the mission play which we had just seen.
Will you try to imagine the grace and beauty of motion that is without fatigue? Dress fairer than any the world has seen. Beauty of person, of dress, of motion, and all without vanity or selfishness. You cannot get beyond earth comparisons, I know. But if your spirit sight could be clear for 1 minute even, you would never again believe that heaven can lose by comparison with the joys or the beauties of the world.
Well, we have covered the ground fairly well with the negative illustrations, though no doubt it could be elaborated almost endlessly.
We think you are answered in a way. But 1/2 hour of vision, yes, even 1/2 minute, would be more convincing.
Chapter 11, Study and Teaching.
The joy of acquiring knowledge is one of the delights of this life. We never tire of learning, for we love knowledge too much. It is only earth weariness that may hinder you. We learn of the stars and all the elements that compose the stars. Then all the diversified lives on the millions of planets surrounding the stars. All the products and combinations of chemical action. All the history of life from its lowest forms upward. Light, electricity, sound waves, musical vibrations, and the harmonies resulting therefrom. All that is beautiful in the world of art or in the world of literature. Of course, not all these are studied at once nor by the same person. Many pleasures are here also, for there are many varieties of minds and many conditions to meet. In pleasures, the reunion of friends and relatives must be counted. And there is the delight of loving friendship, and companionship higher and finer and more enduring than worldly ties. We have concerts of music that would delight your soul, and wit and eloquence are as much valued here as there. Then there is travel, for we can move slowly or fast as we choose. Can you realize the interests that fill our lives? Variety of occupation, all forms of beauty, friendships more dear than earth can ever know, ever-increasing knowledge, music such as mortals cannot conceive, all that heart can wish or mind enjoy. If the soul asks for more, we turn to those of the next higher plane, and are given what we desire. We in turn try to help others to reach their ideals, and we are wishing now to make known to the dwellers on earth the happy existence here, that death may lose its sting and the grave its victory. All knowledge here is acquired with ease, and all the spirit functions of sight, hearing, and memory are vastly in advance of the earthly ability. and there is no limit to knowledge or happiness. After character has been established, we study for knowledge of the earth from which we here all come, knowledge of the conditions there, and ways of improving those conditions. Then the knowledge of higher spiritual activities, and the power that this knowledge gives, knowledge to be used for other lives, sometimes on earth, sometimes on other planets. After this, still increasing knowledge and still increasing power for good. Always giving out. Do not forget that knowledge is to be used for others. The education of the soul is very complex. It has to grow in so many directions that no one description can make it plain to you. First the sight, then the hearing. Of course, these are the mediums through which knowledge is received. Then the recognition and cultivation of intuitive faculties. These are elementary and are additional methods of progress. Then comes the study of spiritual laws. For these must be known and understood, that a newly arrived spirit may not infringe upon them. These laws have to do with the harmony of heaven and the perfect accord of millions upon millions of souls. Once these laws are understood, the newly arrived spirit may discover the infinite variety of teaching here and may select the study most adapted to his taste. This does not mean ignorance along other lines, however, for education is harmonious and many-sided, but simply the specialty he desires most to perfect himself in. This done, his work commences, happy work and happy acquisition of knowledge. Always this specialty in view, yet with so many other sidelights or occupations that the variety is always stimulating to new endeavor and further progress. Then his fitness for a teacher is decided upon, and if he has this talent he becomes a teacher of others. There is no limit to acquisition and no limit to one's taste. 2 or 3 specialties often go together. Mary here has half a dozen. She uses these and still goes on acquiring other knowledge for her own pleasure. The one-sided person does not exist here. He would be a curiosity.
You have some sort of government, have you not?
Yes, we are held to account in various ways. We receive instructions from higher intelligences and report to them of success or failure. But there is no unreasoning tyranny, remember that. For instance, if I have a talent in some one direction, I may be asked to use that talent. Or if I need instruction in some direction, I may be asked to seek that instruction. All is meant for our development and for our more intelligent or capable service.
Then you have nothing that corresponds to our political government?
No, for all here is the process of development, and the best good is the one thought.
How do those in authority gain their position?
Can you compare it with the system on earth a little? There are teachers above us who are wiser than we. They come to us to help direct our efforts. Above them are wiser ones still. I mean those who have been here longer and have been led into higher knowledge. It is like the grades of school, just a little. But the authority and its finality must come from an all-wise ruler whom you call God. And we look up to Christ as his representative among the spheres and circles. Then can you understand that the teachers come to us with the authority of goodness and purity of character, and wisdom derived from the higher influences and the higher studies? Character, wisdom, love, service. These are the characteristics of the teachers who help us, who make our laws, and lead us into the higher knowledge and service.
Chapter 12, Love and Service. Now abideth faith, hope, love, these 3, but the greatest of these is love. Love is the fulfilling of the law. Thus wrote Paul nearly 2,000 years ago. And again in this later century the lesson of love is being sent to us with renewed urgency.
Love and service. Service and love. These must be the watchwords if the world is ever to be at peace. Love is the foundation on which all goodness stands, and must in some way become the law of life everywhere. Love is one, but its manifestations appear in 1,000 ways. Love is never wasted. Its influence may not be recognized, but its power is sure.
Then we are told that love and service walk hand in hand in that other and better life.
All labor, all service, all giving of one's self, should begin with love and be filled with love. Service to mankind, service always and everywhere, with love as the foundation of the effort. Christ came to preach this law of love, and the world must be rebaptized with love if it is to experience peace among nations.
So often was the necessity for love and service on earth reiterated, so often a spiritualizing of the earth life insisted, that once we asked, if teaching and preaching this truth was the sum and substance of spirit life. The answer came with emphasis and speed.
But there is much beside preaching and teaching. Architecture, color formation, flowers and beauty of scene, studies of the heavens above and the planets revolving about their suns, the strange lives on these planets, invention, discovery. Where did the discoveries of Earth come from? Did the cave dwellers know the secrets of electricity, or did they fly through the air, or sail the oceans, or live in luxurious homes? Don't forget that the impulse to these improvements came from here. And these impulses given to mortals are a part of the love and service that sound to you like preaching. Many material beings must be helped along material lines. The dwellers on some of the outer planets have to be inspired to find ways of obtaining heat and food. We help them to find the best of the material world in which they live. Can you realize how different life would be if mortals would learn to live the unselfish life, and learn also the truths of spiritual existence? There must be progress in spiritual life if the world is to be saved from becoming a wreck. You think we have used one expression over much, that of love and service as describing heavenly activity. But in the poverty of human expression and lack of human knowledge of the life of the Spirit, how can we better express the heavenly joy and activity? Do not dwell on the past. Its failures and disappointments are over. Let them go. Move onward and upward. Live in spiritual thought, in the spiritual ideals of love, joy, peace, and happiness.
Chapter 13, Activities and Occupations. Many aspects of life in the spirit world are made more clear by what has been already said. But only a little has so far been presented that makes one familiar with their general activities, what we would speak of as their daily life and occupations. To have real happiness in the earth life, one must be busy under congenial circumstances. When this rule is applied to spirit life, one at once begins to wonder what they do, how they put in the time, in a world where no hours are set aside for sleeping, eating, care of the person or care of the dwelling, or, more than all, for making a living. Early in our writing we had been told enough to set us thinking, and we remarked, "Your descriptions are rather different from the old ideas of psalms singing and golden streets."
That was a much misunderstood figure of speech. It was only a mind picture to suggest happiness and occupation, but earthly thought took it too literally.
There was nothing else to suggest a different idea, we replied.
I know. That is why we want to give you greater knowledge of this life, which is as sane as the highest earthly occupation, and far more delightful. I can tell you some of our activities, but you may have trouble in understanding, as we cannot well express them in terms of human language. For instance, you cannot understand the terms we use in creating or combining colors. You could not possibly understand how our music is created. And so with a multitude of things. To tell you anything of our occupations, you must know first that we are taught to work for others, which is the joy of life here. Then we are taught various sciences and the methods of spirit thought. We are then allowed to go to other planes and study the conditions there. We can see all the life on the different planets and work there if we choose. We are free to choose our work. But if later we find objections, we may change. Some are teachers, some are messengers, Some welcome the new arrivals. Many are caring for the little children. Some study the other planets, and many will go to distant worlds to learn such new conditions as may be understood. We are interested in the development of the processes of the mind as they act upon outward things, such as the formation of our plant life, the combination of colors, and the manufacture of fabrics. These are all mind processes, all regulated by fixed laws. We plan the beautiful fabrics with which spirits are clothed, and it is also with the powers of the mind that homes and halls and buildings for art and teaching are constructed. Architecture is a marvelous work, and we have all the riches of heaven to inspire the planning of the wonderful buildings. Authors are here writing books. I mean spiritually writing them, and spiritually reading them to others. Will you be surprised to learn that writing by alphabet is taught? That is part of our education in order to keep the memory of Earth language and so to communicate with those of Earth. Some study chemistry as it pertains both to the material and to the invisible life. Others teach history. The poor little Earth is not the only planet with a history. Some develop new ideas in mechanics. Most of such things are suggested from here. Then we have work for other planets and other universes altogether away from any conditions that you know. We are in some ways more advanced than they are. In others they are superior to us. There are many problems, and in solving them we are climbing upward in many ways. But the way is long and the road a weary one for those who have not learned their lessons on Earth. Many come here so strongly influenced by their earthly beliefs that they do not realize themselves as spirit at all, and have to be led in various ways to comprehend that death has separated them from the life they once knew. That is one of the things that give us occupation. Then we have many who have recently come over who are ignorant of this life and have to learn its new ways of perceiving and enjoying. This is another way in which some of the circle are occupied. When not engaged in helping those who need us, we are studying the spirit forces, thought power and thought building, the etheric atoms and how to use them. You do not know, nor can you know, all the occupations of this life. We have given you those, or described those, more nearly resembling the occupations of earth life. But there are many, many others of which you cannot as yet form any conception. We are active with a freedom unknown on earth because of added powers. We are happy with a joy unknown on earth because of increased sense of appreciation. And we worship with an infinitely greater reverence because we are more in touch or communion with the divine.
Could you describe your own activities for one day?
Your breath would be taken away if I were to tell you of the speed and ease with which I accomplish a host of things. I may go to a planet with a message or lesson. I may go to a hall of learning, or drift away to some far-off circle to learn of its activities. Or I may be helping some mortal on earth, or receiving some newly arrived soul. All of these would not be too much to accomplish in a day here, and much more could be brought within its hours if necessary.
An intimate diary of your work and of your impressions while doing these things would be very interesting to mortals. The reply came very emphatically.
But, you see, we do not try to keep track of what we do. That way might lead to pride. Our way is to do good and forget our work as soon as possible and move on to the next duty. But do not forget that duty and pleasure are one with us.
Considerably later, possibly a year or more afterward, we spoke of their work again, asking. You spoke yesterday of turning to other things after our talk. Just what did you do? And what have you been doing today?
Mary went to a circle where they were studying magnetic waves, and listened to a lecture on this subject. Then she went to hear some music in the great temple of music, and listened until her soul was filled with harmony. After that she went to a newly arrived spirit who was not finding her way perfectly, and tried to help her to realize her surroundings. And the hours sped by until she finally went to her home, and she had one of the dear talks and companionships which are such a blessing to them both. These are just a few things. Many others came into the day that with you is just over, as certain other studies, journeys to the library for help and knowledge, and teachings in various ways and places.
To this I replied. Yes, and you did not have to do up your hair and change your dress before you went to the library, and you did not have to consider the weather, and if it was a long way, you did not have to order out the automobile, or take a streetcar.
You are right. There are no obstacles in the way, and we make each day equal to half a dozen on earth.
What was Dee doing?
Mary says she went to her children 2 or 3 times, for she has several groups under her care. Then she spent much time helping and comforting several little ones, just come over, and this is for her such a loving and lovely work. Then she went to her studies and to various lectures, and so her day passed pleasantly, and included various little occasions of going to see if you needed her and were all right. You were not well last night, but we did not worry, as we thought you would soon be better. And tonight when you took up the pencil, it seemed to be a telegram to us, and we started, one from a lecture and the other from our home, and here we are.
Now tell us what you have been doing.
Sis said she had been to see the doctor, and asked Dee if she remembered his treatments for the throat.
I should say I did, and you hated them worse than I.
We then went over the events of the day.
Mary says, you surely had a good time. Anything good at the movies?